Hi, I'm Mina, and I'm an English language teacher. I coach people to speak English confidently. There is something really important I want to tell you, and that is that watching these grammar videos is only the first step. If you really want to improve your English speaking skills and your confidence when speaking English, the second step is much more important. So if you stay until the end of this video, I'm going to explain what I mean by this second step and how you can start it today. Okay, so we started with the zero conditional, we looked at the first and the second. If you haven't seen those videos, there will be a link above so you can check those out first. And today we look at the third conditional. It's a little bit more advanced. You will need to know a few advanced tenses. I'm sure you can do it. Anyway, let's get started and see some of the rules for this conditional before you get a chance to practice it. So starting with examples, I have the first one here. If I hadn't studied English, I'd have studied psychology. By the way, that's true about me. That is my second favorite thing, psychology after English. Let's look at the second example. If I'd had more time last week, I'd have practiced English every day. What would you have done if you had been in my shoes? To be in someone's shoes, it means to be in someone's position, in someone's place. So what would you have done in my position? What would you have done if you'd been in my shoes? Those are some examples of the third conditional, what it looks like. Now we're going to see why we use this. Is it really necessary? Do we need it in real life? And how to form this. Okay, so one reason we use it is to talk about past regrets, something that we are really sorry about, something that happened in the past. Take a look at this example. If I had not gone out for lunch yesterday, I would have finished work on time and I wouldn't have had to work so late. Why did I go out for lunch? That was a bad idea. So sometimes we look back at our choices that we made in the past and we feel bad about that. And for that, we need a third conditional. I hope you don't do a lot of this, but if you ever want to do that, this is where you need the third conditional. But don't worry, it has another meaning as well. Because we also use it to find the good in something that happened in the past. So it could be to find the silver lining, which means to find something good in every bad situation. Take a look at this example. Yesterday, I had to work later than usual. If I had left work on time, I wouldn't have met my friend at the bus stop and we wouldn't have gone for a coffee together. So I'm really glad I had to work late. So we can use that to talk about how something happened in the past and it was actually a good thing. If I had left work on time, I wouldn't have met my friend at the bus stop and we wouldn't have gone for a coffee together. But we did, and that was great. So I'm using the third conditional here to say that I'm really happy about something that happened in the past. And as you might have noticed, we use this to talk about the past, to talk about how things could have been different in the past. So if that had happened, then this would have happened. So it's generally reflecting on the past. In examples like these, we can see that as well. If I hadn't studied English, I'd have studied psychology. If I'd had more time last week, I'd have practiced English every day. What would you have done if you'd been in my shoes? Those are examples from the beginning of the explanation. How would your childhood have been different if your parents had given you a different name? Have you ever thought about that? How would your childhood have been different if your parents had actually given you a different name? I could have helped you if you'd asked for help. So these are some examples of how the third conditional is used to speak about the past. But something that can be a little bit complex with this third conditional is the tenses. So you notice that you will need to use this every time you look back at the past and you want to comment on how things could have been different or how things were really good. So we use a special tense to make this kind of structure. Let's analyze the first example. If I hadn't studied English, I'd have studied psychology. I told you this is true. I studied English. I didn't study psychology. But if I hadn't studied English, so I'm using something called the past perfect, not if I didn't study. Because remember, if I say if I didn't study, that is the second conditional. And the second conditional is about the present. I am thinking about how the present could be different. But this one is to look back at the past. This was more than 10 years ago when I studied, and I use the past perfect to show that I am reflecting on the past. Not simple past, but past perfect. If I hadn't studied English, I'd have studied psychology. We have here this d is would. I would have studied. So we use would and then something like the present perfect, but it's different because even for he, we use he would have studied, not he would has studied. So it's would and the present perfect, or would have and the past tense, the past participle. Any way you like to see it. If this is a little bit confusing, let's do some more examples. It will get easier. If I'd had more time last week, I'd have practiced English every day. If I had. And you notice here that it's actually more natural to contract this if I'd had, not had more time. But when you're still learning and still practicing, it's okay to say if I had more time, if it helps you know that you got the right tense. So if I'd had more time last week, I would have practiced, or I'd have practiced English every day. So again, past perfect and would have done something. What would you have done if you had been in my shoes? Here we have no contractions, but we could have said if you'd been in my shoes. Do you remember what it means to be in someone's shoes? It's to be in someone else's position. So next one, how would your childhood have been different if your parents had given you a different name? So the trick here is to use this more and more and to try to get the right tense. In the beginning, it feels a little strange. You have to think about what tense you're using, but the more you do it, it becomes more natural. And do we have any more examples? Yes, last one. I could have helped you if you'd asked for help. You notice here that we can use could instead of would. I could have helped you if you'd asked for help, but you didn't ask for help. So this is the third conditional, and the second one would be I could help you if you asked for help. So they're quite different, and the meaning here is this is all in the past. There's nothing you can do about it now. This all happened some time ago, maybe a long time ago. So we express this by using this special tense, the past perfect, and would have done. This is how to make the third conditional. Those are the rules. What is the next step? Before we go to the next step, I want to remind you that after each video, there is a page on my website where you can practice in the form of the conditionals or anything that we learn in our lesson. In this case, it's englishwithmina.com/third-conditional, and you will get an opportunity to practice to put the right verb form to complete the third conditional. And there will be another activity where you have to decide which conditional that is. Is it the 0, the first, or the second, or the third? Because now we've done them all. There are no conditionals left except the mixed conditional, but we'll talk more about that next lesson. So I promised at the beginning I will talk about the second step. The second step is actually putting all of this into practice by speaking. So ideally, if you have a teacher, they will ask you many questions in the second conditional or the third conditional. What would you have done if you hadn't studied what you studied? So that way you have to talk, and the teacher can help and correct your mistakes or help you with some vocabulary that you're missing. But more importantly, the teacher will make you feel it's okay to make mistakes. You get this feeling of practicing in a safe environment. Now, if you don't have a teacher, you can still practice today because you can answer the questions that will be in the quiz in the comments here below on on the YouTube video or on my website. And if you want me to, I can go ahead and correct maybe what you said or just reply to you comments, so you have a feeling of a real interaction. It is written, not spoken, but it's a very similar thing. You're trying to express your opinion in English. The more you do it and you make occasional mistakes, the more you will learn from this kind of work, because just listening to information doesn't actually do the trick. So it's up to you to use it and to try and to start to feel more and more comfortable even with making mistakes, because that is the only way to make progress. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And do tell me how you would like me to help you in the future. What would you like me to talk about in the videos? What would you like me to explain, or what kind of tips would be useful for you? And remember to make use of the comments below. Keep practicing. Bye.